All right. Today we're going to go over a few things that I had built. For years, I've had these old transformers and vintage API components sitting in boxes on shelves. And I decided I want to start designing some gear out of these pieces that I could use in my studio. These are great pieces. They got that sound, and I need to start using them. So every piece I design is completely transformer balanced in and out. So I take these old transformers and these 325 cards. I'd recap the 325 cards, send them to my tech with schematics that I wanted and the specs that I wanted, and he'd build them for me. And he's always done an amazing job. So we're going to go over these units, mainly two of them, but I have a third here that I'll just go over real quick because the features on it are very cool. So this is a pair of vintage API preamps, all right? And it's got preamp gain and an output fader and a mute for each channel, right? It also has 48 volt phantom power per channel and phase reverse per channel. So you could mute each channel, and then another cool feature about this is as you're recording, you could hit this, and if you see underneath, it might be hard to see, it says mono. What that does is it takes both channels, sums them together, and sends them out one output. And let me tell you why that's cool. If you're recording a guitar cab with two microphones on it, say you got an SM57 and a Royer 121, you could take those microphones, get a good mix between these preamps, and commit them to one track. So it keeps your tracks cleaned up in Pro Tools, and it's especially useful if you're hitting tape. Now, additionally, it's very important to me that I can mix through this unit. So if I flip that down to line mode, it's now going through a pair of old 325 cards. And it's basically just a unit I could mix through. I did the same thing when I ordered this unit, this Longman AM16, I paid extra to have it that I could switch to line mode, and now I could mix through it hitting those transformers. It's very cool. So I just love these switches. If you watch my other videos, you always see me using my old API 312 cards here. I got 10 of them here. And I got an output fader and a mute switch for each preamp. It's important to me. And it's cool. Very useful. So now that that's out of the way, we're going to go over the main focus of what we're doing tonight. And that is my API summing mixer that you usually see right up here under my master section. And the newer unit that I have, it's not brand new, but I've been using it for a while, but it's newer, which is 4 more vintage API 325 cards. Every unit, as I said, is completely transformer balanced in and out. So I got input transformers here, big Jensens, old vintage Jensens, and then there's more under there, all right? And then old 325 cards. So what this unit is on top is a summing mixer, and it's 16 inputs with a stereo mix bus insert, and it's completely balanced in and out and everything in between. So I could be doing a mix in Pro Tools. I come out of Pro Tools via my burls, 16 channels into this summing mixer. It goes through this beautiful circuitry. I could insert a mix bus compressor and EQ, or just a pair of vintage API 550 EQs on the mix bus. I could bypass it to hear what it's doing to my mix. This is a true bypass right here. And it has a master output fader. It does not affect what's on the mix bus. It has a mono check, but I don't really use that because I have that on my master section and I use it on there. But still cool to have, and that's just power on and off. So I use this unit in 2 ways, like I just said, to mix through it. And when I'm using this unit to mix, I'm not using all my outboard gear. And the reason why is, if I'm going to use all my outboard gear, I'm going to use my console. That's what it's designed for and what it's best at. So when I'm using my API summing mixer, It's because I'm doing a lot of recalls on a band and I don't want to fuss with a bunch of recall, and it makes it easy. It's nothing to recall a stereo compressor and EQ for the mix bus. And it still sounds great because we're still hitting a lot of good Class A discrete circuitry. Another way that I use this unit is sort of how I designed this. For multiple microphones on a guitar cab or a drum set, I could sum it to 1 or 2 tracks. So let's just put a scenario together. Say I have 4 microphones on a guitar cab, which I have done many times for bands. I'll have an SM57, a Royer R101, and then my R88, which is a stereo ribbon microphone further back in the room. I could mix all 4 of those mics together, get a good blend, and commit to 1 channel in Pro Tools or 1 channel on my tape machine. And I could do that twice with this unit because it's stereo left and right. All right, that's the API summing mixer. Now, down here, I have an API auxiliary. I call it an aux unit, bus unit. What this is I designed it as just 4 API line amps. It has gain pots and mute switches for each channel. And it's 4 channels. So this unit here, I could set up auxiliary buses in Pro Tools. So I got my drum bus, 10 microphones, bussed out and auxiliary, going to channel 1 and 2, left and right, drum bus. Then this comes out and goes into my API summing mixer. So I could use this in conjunction with my summing mixer and standalone. I could just mix to it as a pair of stereo line amps, or I could throw it into my summing mixer, and that's what I'm doing now. Did I mention that this summing mixer has 4 mono channels? So channel 1, 2, 3, and 4 are mono, straight up the center. Then 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, 13 and 14, and 15 and 16 are stereo left and right. That's the way I designed that. And we are going to hear these. We are going to go through them. I'm going to set up a mix, and we're going to go through them. But while I have these out, I am going to try some different op amps. So before I sent these cards to my tech, I recapped them. All right. And these have old Farmingdales and Melvilles, right? And these are studio systems, and these are Melvilles, all right? So these are Farmingdales. What I'm going to do is, oh, and the transformers are old Reichenbach line input transformers. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to put a pair of VF600s in channel 1 and 2, and a pair of Cappies in channel 3 and 4. Just to have, you know, some different op amps in there. I'm going to leave those the vintage op amps, and we're going to hear them. Okay, so before I put the covers back on these and put them in a position to where I'm going to start mixing through them, I ended up using all VF600s in here. I took the vintage ones out, and I have VF600s, and I want to explain why. There's a flaw in my design. So since this is a single rack and the way these 325 cards sit, the Cappies that I wanted to use have very long leads, and I refuse to cut the leads on these because this is a consecutive serial number pair that I have a shrine set up right here with the original boxes, my Audioscape and Cappy shrine right up there. And I'm just not willing to cut the leads on these. And when I put them in there, they stood a little too high. Now, I could have still got the cover on, but I just didn't want to, have to put a card or anything on here, and I didn't want this touching the top of the chassis. So that is a flaw in my design, because I could have made that 2 space, but it's 1. And what's good about the leads being long on these, and Avitas did the same thing, the leads are long. You could always cut them to be shorter. You can't make them longer once they're installed. The VF600s, this is the VF600s, they're long, they're good, but they're not as long, right? So what's good about this design, depending on your situation, sometimes you're putting op amps in where there's components that they have to sit over, like a resistor or could be anything, a diode that they have to sit over, and this clears them, which is cool. And for heat dissipation, to have them sitting up, let's put a couple together. Let's see. So this is the Avitas. This is the Cappy. And then let's get the VF600. And there's the VF600. And I want you guys to see what I'm talking about here. Someone came up a little short. All right. Now, I love the VF600s. I got 10 of these. I got 6 of these and a pair of these, you know. I love op amps. I love trying different things. These are current production. Some guards. These are spheres. These are APIs. I got more back there, vintage ones, and then more put away. So I'm just wanted to show you guys that I am going to use all VF600s because I'm just not willing to cut the leads off my match serial number pair of Cappy op amps. All right, I got it all back in the racks now, and I hooked up my patch bay. So everything's hooked up on my patch bay. What I did was I pulled up an old session from 2017, and it's 20 tracks, and I summed them out, 16 channels to my API summing mixer. A few of those tracks are hitting the 325 card line amps before it goes into my summing mixer. So basically I have the drums all going through my summing mixer. Then I set up an additional auxiliary drum bus, a little sub mix of the drums, and sent that out to channels 3 and 4 of the line amps, and then that goes into the API summing mixer. So on this session, really quick, I set levels and did some panning, used a couple plugins, and on the main vocal track, I felt the urge to put an 1176 on it, which I could have, but that sort of defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to do it all in the box and then just sum out to my summing unit. All right, so the main vocal, I put through a 325 card, and it put it right where I wanted it. Additionally, I have on the mix bus insert the Allen Smart C2 and the Elysia X filter, and I will bypass that and then pop it back in so you could hear what it's doing. All right, so we're gonna go through this fast, quick, and sweet. So there is 20 tracks on this song. This is a young lady from Wisconsin. She's very young, 19, 20 years old. She came here with only her guitar and her vocals, showed me her song ideas, and this is the song I built for her. All right, it's totally her song. She wrote it, but I hired the musicians and produced it for her. So let's go over it. We'll just hear a snippet of it. There is an intro to this song, but I'm going to cut when all the instruments kick in. And here it is. I hope you'll be stronger than those arms for which I long to wrap around me in my skin. Hold me closer, closer again. I hope I can be louder and longer than those voices that scream on my faults. So that's the gist of it. Some of you might be familiar with this song. I did a video of it way back when in 2017, just going over some stuff in my studio, and this was the song playing because it was a session I was working on at the time. Now let's hear just the drums. So for the drums, I got 10 tracks of drums. All right, I have kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, tom, floor tom, stereo overheads, hats, and mono room. Nowadays I'm doing stereo room. Back then I probably was just doing bare minimum. All right, and I have the SSL plugin on kick and snare, just doing some low cut, and the Pro Q on stereo overhead. Besides that, I have the drum bus right here, and it's coming out channels 13 and 14, hitting the 325 cards, then going into my summing mixer. So let's hear these drums. This blue channel is a VCA track. I love Pro Tools 2020. These VCA tracks make life so much easier. I'm so glad they added that. All right, so that's the drums. Bass guitar, great guy. We recorded his bass, and actually it was my bass that he was playing, into a DBX 168, and I really like the way it sounds. So the only thing I did was a little bit of EQ. So I love the bass sound. I like the bass sound how it was, so the only thing I did was add a little bit of EQ. I did some low cut and an API 560, and as you can see, I'm not doing much, just getting the sound of the plugin. And didn't add any compression because we recorded with compression, and this is very simple. And have a listen. Here it is. And here it is with the drums. Man, this summing mixer and this setup that I have right here is sounding great. DMS5 from Inmore Connections is super crystal clear. It's honest, it's natural, it doesn't color the sound. So I love monitoring through this. All right, let's hear the rhythm guitars. I have API 550As on left and right, and the Siemens EQ on the center guitar. And this is the VCA track for it. Here we go. Right, then over here I have some clean sparkly guitars, including her original guitar right here that was the scratch track that we built the song around. It's not on, sometimes it's a little off, but I have it automated to where it pops in and out of the song because I really wanted to keep the feel of her in the song. And that's this here, and then I got another clean guitar plucking some strings. So here's the VCA track for that, and I'm going to solo it out now. All right, let's hear all the music. Here we go, without the vocals. And her scratch guitar track, I have panned to the left, and then that guitar plucking the strings is panned to the right. Not hard, just, let's see, 38% and 25%. let's hear the vocals on their own. I got a lot of stuff going on here. So I have a Pro Q3, a de-esser, a Fairchild plugin, and wow, that was big. Let me make that smaller. That's crazy. There we go. Sound Toys, Micro Shift, just using a little bit of that, and the Clariphonic plugin. Try and get some of that sibilance. Now I have an auxiliary track for the vocal tracks. This is her main vocal, and then there's a backup vocal doing some harmonies in the background. The auxiliary track has the decapitator, little plate verb, and the J37 tape machine plugin. So let's hear her vocals. Here they are.
I hope I can be stronger than those arms for which I long to wrap around me and my skin.
All right, so I have her vocals going through a 325 card line amp. So again, this is just like simulating bussing, like bussing on a console. All right, I want to bust a vocal through a mono channel, or the drum bus through a stereo channel. I'm not using channel 2. All right, and this simulates the bussing of a console. So I'm gonna increase this and lower it so you could sort of hear the 325 card and the thickness that it adds. Because when I was setting all the volume and panning the vocals, I felt the urge to put an 1176 on her vocals, but that sort of, again, defeats the purpose that I want to do with this video in this session. Is I want to get used to using only plugins, no outboard, and using my Summy mixer for bands that I'm doing fast in and out. All right, so here we go.
I hope I can be stronger than those arms for which I long to wrap around me and my skin. Pull me closer and closer again. I hope I can be louder and louder than those voices that scream all my faults.
All right, so that is the vocals. Let's go to a part in the song where it builds up and does all the cool tom work on the drums. I believe it's around this part. Let me solo the drums out, then I'll add stuff. Here we go. All right, one more thing I want to do is I want to get to a part in the song that I think will demonstrate what the mix bus chain is doing. All right, so whenever I use any compressor or any EQ, especially on the mix bus, I do it very conservatively. I do not do a lot of gain reduction, especially if it's gonna go to mastering, which half my stuff does, half doesn't. Especially if it's going to go to mastering, I use a very little tweaks, very little gain reduction, just very light settings. All right, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing about 2 dB of gain reduction on the Allen Smart, and then hardly anything at all on the Alesia X filter, which Alesia makes amazing gear. The Xpressor is amazing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this part of the song. I'm going to take the vocals out, and I'm going to bypass the mix bus chain. Let's see if we could hear what it does. should be smoothing out anything poking out too much. Pay attention to the snare. I don't know if that comes across on YouTube, but it definitely does in the room. I hear the snare popping out more than I would like it to. But this really, it adds that glue, and that's what it's meant to do. Love the Allen Smart C2, all right? Let's see if we could hear it just with the drums. Let me solo the drums out. Here we go, and then I'll bypass it. You can really hear it there when he did that little tom fill. The tom got a little aggressive and it lost the glue, right? Let's hear it with the whole mix and the vocals, and I'll bypass it. Really heard it on the vocals there. All right, so I'm really satisfied with these units that I had made, and man, is it awesome. It's awesome. These I'd like to, I have more 325 cards. I might make another one of these, but I want to keep it simple, relatively simple when I use this setup, because that's what it's for, simplicity. So what I'm thinking is, since I have this session pulled up, and it's not, you know, it's a quick mix and it's rough. The automation isn't really where I want it to be right now. But what I'm thinking about doing is doing an in-the-box print, a print off my summing mixer, and then taking the same mix and summing it through the console without any outboard so we could hear the difference of all three. So I might do that in another video before I put this session away. So, but this was cool. It was good to hear, and I appreciate you guys watching my videos.